Hi everyone, happy Friday. It's Jen Lee and this is Automation Hour. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, all lines will be muted. Please use the chat function to ask any questions about Ashley's presentation today or about any general process automation questions. And if we do not get to your question today, we'll ask you to post it out on our Trailblazer community, Salesforce Automation Hour, and we'll continue the discussion there. After the session, we'll post the recording out to our YouTube channel with a link on our website, as well as a link to the deck. And we'll also communicate that out on social media as well. And we have booked out for the rest of 2018, believe it or not. So we do encourage you to register for our future events. And even if you can't attend, at least after the session, you'll get a link to the posting. But we're very excited for several MVPs. We also have Salesforce product managers who will be coming on in July to highlight the Summer 18 release enhancements for process automation, and as well as many community members on here too. And we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Concrete.io, for bringing this free webinar series to everyone. And here are your co-hosts. I'm here with David and Rakesh. And with that, we're really excited to have Ashley Allen on our session today, and it being May 4th today. So we're looking forward to what she has to show. So let me hand that off to Ashley. All right, you should have control now, Ashley.
All right, I'm just showing my screen. All right, so here's a picture of myself at Trailhead DX. This is me, Ashley Allen, and my partner, Miranda Ragland. We had the pleasure of meeting Mark Hamill after the keynote. So that was something that was really awesome. And since it's May the 4th, I wanted to share this picture with you all. A little bit about me. I'm the co-founder and CEO at IT Equality. We're a Salesforce partner. I'm also 7 times certified, and I'm heavily involved in the community. I've done speaking events at Dreamforce, as well as Trailhead DX and Transform Tech. I'm involved with several of the local groups. I'm from Orange County, California. So I'm a frequent attendee at the different Orange County groups. I'm the nonprofit, Orange County nonprofit user group leader. I'm working with a very large team to help with witness success planning. I also lead a group called Trailblazers with Anxiety and Diversity Partners. So if you want to learn more about those, you can always find me on Twitter at a nerd girl or IT Equality. All right, so for our agenda today, May the 4th be with you, and CPQ. So we're going to spend about 10 minutes plus or minus talking about CPQ and what is CPQ. So for those of you who don't know, it's configure, price, quote. We'll talk about the different components of CPQ because it's a large configuration. It's a large bundle of different items. We'll talk about CPQ automation, and then we'll take some questions after the slide. We'll pause for a minute. We'll jump into some live demo, and we will build a quote using CPQ so that you can see what that looks like. We'll make a new opportunity and a new quote. We'll add products to that quote, and then we'll sync it back to the opportunity, and again, pause for questions. And then we'll continue our live demo by troubleshooting some of the product bundles. And if we have time, we will talk a little bit about the product rules, because that is a part of CPQ automation. Okay, so a little bit about CPQ. When you are configuring your products in the line editor, you need to select the right products, and CPQ lets you help your users navigate your product library by allowing them to group together certain types of products. So you can create a bundle of products that are related to each other, as you'll see in the demo. You can also use product rules to validate or to perform some kind of an action. You can use price rules, and these are all different parts of the CPQ package. They all work together so that you can configure what you need to see on the quote, and then you can price it. And lastly, you can generate a template. Since CPQ is such a large suite of different objects that work together, we're not going to be talking about all of CPQ end to end. That would be really difficult. It would be like talking about the entire Sales Cloud in a 1-hour session. So we're going to focus specifically on CPQ automation, the parts of CPQ that automate your pricing or they automate your product selection, ways that you can sort of configure this to make things a little bit easier. Areas that I will not cover include templates, the merge fields that are involved in templates, the design involved in templates, different addendums. I'm also not going to talk much about the package-wide settings. So in addition to these other areas of CPQ, when you're first installing the package, there's a whole selection of different options and different ways that you can customize the user experience using these package settings. There are several package settings that I will not be covering today. So just one more time, I'll be talking about product bundles and a little bit about product rules. At this point, if there are any questions, I'll answer some questions.
There currently are not any questions.
All right. Perfect. So I will jump into the live demo at this point. All right, so we're going to spend the next 15 minutes building a quote using Salesforce Cpq. And this all starts a long, long time ago in a Salesforce org far, far away, lived the Ohana store. And as a member of the Ohana store, you have been asked to provide vital supplies to the resistance. Questions afterwards. All right, so here we have our Salesforce opportunity, and we have our account. We're currently building a package of supplies for the Tantive 4 for their diplomatic mission to Alderaan. All right, so we've configured this opportunity already. We have our close date in 1977, and we are going to add a quote in order to move forward. So I've configured the opportunity layout to include the Salesforce Cpq quote related list. So we'll go ahead and make a new Cpq quote. I like to clarify because there is a native quotes object, and so after you install Cpq, you'll have to make sure that you're using the Cpq quote and not the native quote. So we'll go ahead and click on New. All right, and from here, we'll make sure this is connected to our opportunity and our account. All right, and we can just accept these defaults for now. and we'll save our quote. So here we are, we're looking at our CPQ quote. We are going to need to add products to this quote. So we will click on Edit Lines. And when I click on this, it's going to take me to the CPQ line configurator wizard, if you will. Since I have not already made a quote for this opportunity, it's going to prompt me to choose a price book, much like you would experience in Salesforce when you're adding products to an opportunity. The same thing happens with the Salesforce CPQ. So we can choose the dark side, or we can choose our standard pricing. But today we're going to look at Yoda's pricing. All right, so here we go. We'll save that. And now when I'm configuring these products, I'll only see what's on the Yoda price book. I'll click on Add Products. And here we can see all of our products available to us with our Yoda specific pricing. All right, we have a little note to self that blue milk is sold in sets of 10. So let's go ahead and select one of those. We're also going to select a Jedi Holocron and a Darth Vader helmet, because in the event that we want to disguise ourselves, we'll need a handy Darth Vader helmet. So at this point, I'm going to select these. I can always select and add more. So I'll choose these 3 products, and then we can come back and add more if we need to. All right, so something that happens automatically because I have already configured these bundles for us, you'll see that the Darth Vader helmet is bundled with these different products that have been automatically selected for us. Everything you're seeing on the screen is customizable with CPQ. So the way that I have the quantity is defaulted to 3 for the blue milk, but it's defaulted to 1 for a red lightsaber. We're going to look at this in the next part of the demo, how these bundles have been put together, because gasp, oh no, there's a TIE fighter selected, and that should not be bundled with a Darth Vader helmet. That product is way too expensive, and this is a complete goof. So in the next part of this demo, we're going to remove the TIE fighter, TIE Advanced from this bundle so that it's no longer selected. And the other thing we're going to do is to deselect some of these, because right now they're all checked. We really only want the less expensive items of blue milk and Jabba plushie to be selected. So for now, let's just uncheck red lightsaber, and we'll uncheck our TIE fighter, and then move on to the next bundle. So I am configuring the Darth Vader helmet with these 2 products. And now I'll go ahead and configure the Jedi Holocron. Something that's different about the Jedi Holocron is that we have choose at least 1, but no more than 2 of the following. So 1 is automatically selected for us, and we need to manually choose another item. So we can choose anything we want, but if we choose too many and we try to save, this is going to give us a warning that says we've selected too many options in the additional Jedi accessories. So the way that this has been configured, it forces you to choose no more than 2. So we'll just uncheck one of these, and then we can go ahead and save. All right, so now that we've configured our bundles, we're at the pricing page. And this is where we can start to put in some discounts. You know, if we wanted to discount this by 5%. Blue milk is sold in sets of 10. We have more blue milk down here. So we can always reconfigure this, because, you know, we see that we've got blue milk in 3 different places. if we click on this little wrench to reconfigure, it sort of lets us go back. So now I can say, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to go with the lightsaber because it's a better deal. And I can save that. And then the same thing for this line, I can just reconfigure it. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to go with the Wicked's cowl and remove blue milk. So we'll save that. Okay, so now this looks much better. We have our product bundles, and then we have blue milk over here. So I have a quantity of 1 because it's set in sets of 10. But if I wanted to update this to say 12, and if I hit calculate, it's going to recalculate because a quantity of 12 would give me a different price. Okay, so the last part of this, I do want to mention that with the product bundles, the way that these products are indented and the way that they're displaying is also configurable. You can have these not indented. You can choose to group them together. If you were to drag and drop, you can move these around and keep the bundle together. And these are all things that can be configured independent of one another. It's a very, very flexible system. So we've seen our 2 different kinds of bundles and a little bit of automated pricing. The last thing, if we were to hit save now, we have this warning that pops up at the top of the screen. This is very similar to a Salesforce validation rule, but in CPQ terms, it's called a product rule. So we have our product rules at the top of the screen, and this sort of validation can be done in multiple ways. So that's one more thing we're going to learn about in the next part of this demo. So at this point, I'm going to hop back over to our slides, and we're going to take some questions if there are any questions.
There are not currently any questions.
No questions. All right. This is we need questions. So if you're out there and you have something to ask, send it over and we'll ask it at the next break. Otherwise, we may end a little bit early. Happy to fill the time with more talking, but questions are always awesome. Okay, so let's jump back into our live demo. The first thing that we need to fix, so I'm going to cancel out of this screen so that we can build it all over again, this time after we've fixed some of the mistakes. So we'll cancel out of here and go back to edit lines. Let's just add the 2 bundles that we know of. So I'll click on add products. I know that the Darth Vader helmet is a bundle, and so is the Jedi Holocron. So I'll select those, and we can see what is it that we want to change. All right, so this tie advanced, we do not want this to be bundled anymore, and we also don't want this to be selected automatically. So let's go ahead and take a look at our products, because all of the CPQ configuration for this is done at the product level. So here we are at our products. We'll go ahead and click on Darth Vader helmet. And here are our details. So one noteworthy thing to mention in here is that the configuration type is required. So because it's required, we're prompted to select those checkboxes. But if that's too aggressive, or if you wanted to bypass that somehow, you can just auto set which ones should be checked, and then you can say to bypass that sort of screen. All right, So there are other CPQ specific items at the product level that we're not going to touch on. However, if you were to install CPQ in a dev org to experiment with this on your own, the help text that's available on almost all of the fields is very thorough. So you can get a somewhat extensive education just reading the help bubbles. Okay, so we're at the product detail. We need to look at the product related because that is where we have our options. Okay, so here we have 4 different options. Red lightsaber, and here's our TIE fighter option. I'm going to delete that option because I no longer want that to be associated with this particular product. If I wanted to reassociate it with another product, I could just edit, as I'll show you on the red lightsaber in just a minute. But let's get that out of here before anybody else accidentally bundles it. Okay, so that is going to delete. It was deleted. And now we're going to edit our red lightsaber. Okay, so this is an option. The product option, the configured SKU is Darth Vader helmet. The optional SKU is the red lightsaber. If I wanted to associate this with a feature, I could, but this one is not associated to a feature. The Jedi Holocron that we saw earlier, that is associated to a feature. So I can show that to you as well, since we have been having a sparse amount of questions and we have lots of time. I'll show you a little bit about the feature and the way that that works, because that feature is what's telling us choose 1 or 2, but no more than 2. This one is just sort of a freestyle. You can check which boxes you want. You can also choose if you want people to be able to edit the quantity or not. So there's a minimum quantity of 1, maximum of 10. I think that that's crazy because red lightsabers are so expensive. Let's just say, the maximum quantity is 1. Or better yet, let's say quantity is not editable. It's also selected right now. So let's unselect that because we don't want this to automatically be selected. All right, so we've changed this now so that the red lightsaber is optional. It's not automatically selected, and you cannot edit the quantity beyond 1. It's going to set at a quantity of 1, and then it's not going to let you change it to anything else. All right, so I'll save that. And we'll hop back over to our quote to make sure that everything we're doing makes sense. It's always best practice to make a change, check it, make a change, check it, because if you change too much and then you go back and try to test it, it'll be challenging to know what on earth did I change that, that made this impact. So we're just going to cancel out of here again. And we'll cancel one more time. And then we'll go in and click on Edit Lines again. And this time I'll only choose the Darth Vader helmet because that's what we've been working on. Here we go. Select. And fingers crossed. Here we go. All right. So this looks successful to me. Our TIE fighter is gone. The red lightsaber is no longer selected by default. And if we do select it, we cannot edit that quantity. The quantity is completely locked. Whereas down here, we can go and add as many as we want. So we'll add 22. Awesome. Okay, so this looks really good. I like the way that this turned out. All right. So we're going to go ahead and cancel out of here one more time because we'd also like to test out the Holocron. All right, so let me click on edit one more time. We'll add the product, and this time we will just add Holocron and select. Okay, so we've got blue milk sold in sets of 10 and a Jedi robe and a cowl. Let's just say we wanted to edit this so that you could choose up to 3. We would edit this as a feature because these bundled items are part of a feature. So let's go back to our product over here and we'll look for our Jedi Holocron. Okay, goodbye Vader helmet. Hello Holocron. So we have similar defaults on the Holocron, it's required. But when we get over to the related area, we have a feature associated with our options. In the previous one, there was no feature associated with these options. The feature is grouping together the various options. So if I open up this feature and I look at the related options, we have each of those options are here. We can customize this related list to be a little more helpful than what it displays out of the box, but we also have the same options that are listed in this feature are cross-listed on the product itself. So for now, we'll look at our product features. Similar to what we were looking at before, where there's a minimum number of options and there's a maximum number of options, our feature has that as well. But the way that the feature controls the options, it's displayed in here by choose at least 1, but no more than 2. All right. So let's go ahead and edit this. All right, we'll change this to 3. We have different selection methods, so you can read into that. If you click on it, there's little checkboxes. If you don't like the checkboxes, you can have just the ability to delete. It'll have like a little picture of a trash can on the side. And different people like different types of selection methods. I like the checkboxes, so that's why I chose that one. Okay. So let's go back to our Holocron product, back to the related list where we can see the options with the actual product names. And we wanted to go ahead and automatically select Wicket's cowl. So let's go to the edit for this one. All right, so this is our product option. It's a component. There are different options. So with this being a component, it's going to depend on the Jedi Holocron. But if we wanted it to have a separate pricing from the parent price, we could choose a different type of component. So for example, because that may not have sounded too clear, the blue milk if I were to select this and move on, it'll show a price of 0. So I'm just going to save this. And it's always when you say that something's going to turn out a certain way that it goes and changes it on you. It may have been on the Darth Vader helmet where the blue milk had a quantity of, or it had a price of 0. And that's because the price was already included in the parent product. So you can have a parent product like Jedi Holocron that price includes these bundled products already. It's sort of like if you buy this, you get these for free. Or you can have the price not be included and then these are available at an additional cost. So we will demonstrate that with Wicket's cowl. So let's say this is a related product. All right, we're going to say this is selected. And yes, the quantity is editable. So we'll save this. And then just for fun, we'll edit our blue milk item and then say that this is an accessory. So hopefully now we will have one of each. Since we have saved that, we'll go ahead and see what this looks like now that we've adjusted the products associated. So I'll cancel that, edit our lines again, add products, and we will add our Jedi Holocron, select. Okay, so this is automatically checked because of the way we just configured it with a quantity of 1. And our blue milk is also selected. Now, if we were to, let's check all 3 because now we've updated, we can have up to 3. I'll save that. And the pricing is still, let me click on calculate. No, it's still not looking exactly like I expected it to, but that's all right. We can continue working on this a little bit later. So if I want to save this and go back to my quote, I can click on save. Or if I just want to quick save it, it will save these products to the quote and then I could continue working on it. So if you were doing some extensive calculations or you just wanted to save your progress, you can click on quick save, and that's the difference between those. I am going to pause for a minute and take some questions. All right.
So now we do have a few. So Carol's question is, how is the display set so that the bundles have drop-down arrows and the bundle content is indented?
Okay. How is the display set so the bundles? Oh, okay. So this, since we do have a fair amount of time, I'll go ahead and I'll point out where that is. So if we were to go to our setup menu and look at our installed apps, manage. Here we go, Cpq. Oh, no, that's a different one. I might need to go back to Classic for a minute. Connected apps. Yeah, let me toggle back to Classic for the sake of getting to our installed packages. All right, so we can access this in Lightning. It's just my navigational skills in Lightning are still in progress. So if we were to configure this package and we go to line editor, there's these settings for maintain the bundle structure. So if you want to, this one's for renewals. This is to keep them together when you drag and drop. And this one is to indent the products so that it shows in that nested format. So this would be the setting that you're looking for. I see another question. Can bundles be built using 1+ Csvs and imported via data loader Workbench rather than the UI? Yeah, if you want to create the product options using a CSV, you could make a CSV full of that information. In some cases, that might make sense. You would still need to be very careful of the IDs. So anytime that you the product options are a junction table. And a junction table just connects one object to another object. But in order to work, it has to have the proper IDs for each of those two objects that it's joining. So if you had 100 products and you wanted to bundle them each with 10 products, then you would need to just make sure that you had, those 100 and then each of the 10 products and that you match the IDs properly. So you should be able to load it no problem because it's a custom object that's accessible. But it is part of a managed package, so sometimes issues arise.
I think that's it for the open questions.
Yep, I see one more. It says, is this available in Salesforce Classic? Absolutely, yeah. So I'm in Classic right now because it was helpful for me to get to the installed packages by going back to Classic. But this is what our exact opportunity looks like in Classic, and our quotes are right here. So we can always just create a new quote, and it functions exactly the same. In fact, this package was originally designed in Classic, and now moving to Lightning. Lightning is a newer experience for this particular package, but it all works exactly the same in Classic. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to our slides for a moment. We edited our product bundles. So lastly, bonus round, because we have extra time, we're going to look at that product rule, not price rule. Price rules are different. Let's take a look at this product rule. All right, so we have one product rule called dark side warning, which is what popped up when we were first creating our quote and adding products to our quote. So this has a warning message that fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering, which sounds dark, but it is part of a Star Wars quote, so bear with me. So this is the dark side warning. And why would this warning pop up? It pops up because it's a validation. So there are different types of product rules, but a validation displays an error message. It's the Cpq Validation Rule, if you will. And so we could choose for this to be different. We could have it be a selection type of product rule. And then you could say, if I add a lightsaber, don't forget to give me a carton of blue milk. And so you can have this be sort of an automatic add-on. If it wasn't necessarily a bundle, it was just something that always needs to be tacked on. So perhaps additional consulting fees might be associated with a lightsaber so that you have someone to train you to use it, for example. You might want to say, if you buy a lightsaber, you have to also buy training, which are two separate products, but they have to go together. So you could have a selection type, but this one is a validation. In the related, we can see what the criteria is. So we have an error condition here, and when I click into that, we'll see that it's going to look at the quote line for the product code if the product code contains the value dark. So if the word dark is in the product code, then this error will display. All right, so let's go back to our rule. We're going to change this so that instead of being a validation, we just want this to be an alert. We want this to tell us, hey, maybe you don't want to be buying something from the dark side, but we don't want it to stop us, because in this case, we're not buying dark side items because we're joining the dark side. We're buying dark side items because we want to be disguised. So we'll go ahead and change this to an alert and save. And this is active, so that's good. So now let's go back and cancel out of here, and we'll reconfigure our quote for the last and final time. All right, we're going to add our products. So here's our Darth Vader helmet bundle. We'll add our Jedi Holocron. Let's add some armor just because you never know. And let's add a green lightsaber too. Okay, so we'll select these. And now we'll be prompted to configure our bundles. If you don't like the side panel pop-out version, there's another setting inside of the package settings that lets you just display Darth Vader helmet up here and then Jedi Holocron down here. And if you had more bundles, you could see them in like a linear fashion instead of seeing the pop-out. But it's fun to see them in different ways. So we will choose our red lightsaber. Let's see if we could choose all of them. Save. All right, we accepted defaults for our Jedi Holocron. And everything here looks good. I'll just give some arbitrary discounts over here. In a perfect world, we would be using imperial units instead of US dollars, but this has not been configured for multi-currency just yet. Stay tuned for the future. I'll give this a $3 discount. All right, and let's say I want to discount 3% off the entire bundle. I can click on calculate, and then my values are going to update. And it looks good. So I do have some dark side products in here. We're going to save. And here's my alert. So instead of having a red ribbon across the top of the screen saying you cannot move forward until you remove your dark side items from your configuration, this is just going to give you a gentle reminder that you may not want to purchase dark side items. And that concludes the live demo. So at this point, we can go back to some questions, or if there's something else you want to look at in more detail, I'm happy to talk about some of the other areas, the line editor, anything.
So Ashley, there was a request to package this up and share it with the community.
Sure. Yeah, so, okay, I can package this up and post it. Fortunately, my partner, Miranda, has experience doing that. So I'm not sure how to package things personally, but I feel like
most of it's data though.
Most of it's data. Okay. So if we can't package the data part of this, I have some other options I can post. I do have a YouTube channel that has some tutorials on how to install CPQ in a sandbox. And there are other documents available on the internet for how to install CPQ. We configured this by manually creating each of the products. So this is something where you could make products that either were Star Wars specific or not. Any other questions?
There was one here.
You have one additional discount. Being able to use both percent and amount is interesting. Is that something you have time to show us how it was done?
Yeah, so being able to use percent or amount is out of the box. That's nothing that I configured. It's just part of this additional discount setup. Yeah, I didn't actually configure anything in order to do this. it just comes that way. The one thing I did configure is adding the customer total here. So when I was configuring this and I saw I had some calculation issues with the blue milk, originally I was going to sell them in quantities of 1, but then I tried to work with some block pricing, and my block pricing isn't configured correctly yet. So I said I'd go with sets of 10. But initially I thought that it wasn't calculating correctly. And so I added an additional column in here. And that's something noteworthy. While the additional discount comes out of the box, if you ever wanted to just remove it, you can remove it from this particular line editor. And that's something that I could show you. I see another comment interested in YouTube channel. I can definitely post the link. It's just the IT Equality YouTube channel. There's one video on change sets, one video on CPQ. So for the additional discount percent, I'll go ahead and pull that up because I think it's interesting and we still have a little bit of time. So if I were to go to the object manager, I'll just go to edit object and then I'll go backwards. So for object manager, we're going to go to the quote, quote line. Let me go to quote line. Oh, this is another one where I think you have to go back to Classic. Okay, maybe not the greatest idea. All right, so if we go and look at our quote line, fingers crossed I'm on the right object. CPQ is a really big place, so there's a lot of objects. This quote line, line editor field set, if you were to edit this, I could remove customer total, for example. And if I wanted to remove additional discount, I suppose I could do that. I can remove whatever I want, and I could put in stuff that may or may not be great to put in. Let's just throw in taxable. Okay, so if I save that and then I go back here, sometimes it's as easy as just refreshing. It doesn't make you actually leave and then come back in again, which is really cool because not all packages work that smoothly, but I love being able to just refresh where I'm at and not have to leave and then save and then leave and then save. So here we go. We removed that and then added in taxable, and that's how we edited this line configurator up here. Okay, so yep, and if you ever have questions after this, please feel free to find me on Twitter or in the community, or at my website, or you can email me. Like, if you want to get a hold of me, please feel free to get a hold of me. I'm happy to just help people out in the Ohana spirit. I will jump on a call if you have questions.
There's a question in the success community.
Oh, okay. There was a question in the success community. Does CPQ have their automation area, or do they use standard workflow rules, process builders, and flow areas? Okay, so that's a really good question because using a flow or a process builder in addition to the CPQ configuration will a lot of the times clash. It's not that you can't use process builder, it's just that I've seen it interact in bad ways. So if you think of CPQ as its own little ecosystem of configuration, CPQ is a managed package, and it's very much an all-inclusive cosmos of custom objects and process and code and triggers, and all of that managed package stuff is meant to be used together. So when you kind of cross-pollinate between a product rule and a flow or something like that, sometimes they can kind of step on each other with execution order. And so you might have your price rules that are firing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your flow fires number 500 and overrules what the price rules are doing. And so it's not that you can't use flow or process builder, it's just that if you do, you have to be extra careful. And if you ever needed to use flow or process builder, chances are you may be able to use a custom calculator plugin. So inside of your managed package settings, when we were looking at the bundled setting, there's an option for, I believe it's a JavaScript calculator. I haven't played with them too much personally, but you can have a plugin that would customize this further, and then that would not interact badly with any of the existing automation tools, such as a product rule or a price rule. I hope that answers that question in as much detail as possible, but I also want to be respectful of the time. So if there aren't any additional questions, then I believe that's a wrap for my side.
Ashley, are there any resources that you would recommend for someone who wants to learn more about Cpq?
Yes, there was previously a community before Salesforce acquired Salesforce Cpq. There was a community that's now been decommissioned. So a lot of resources out there have links to this other community that I believe have been rerouted. But if you were to just search for Salesforce Cpq, the top results, let me see, they're trying to sell you. What is configure price quote? There are some trailhead trails out there. As far as the ones that I've seen, a lot of them are very high level, like high level, they don't really get into the specifics. And then some of the resources now that are on the Salesforce community, these ones are interesting. I don't have much experience with these ones. If you're looking for a Cpq certification, I know that Simplus recently released a really comprehensive overview. And that is definitely worth taking a look. At the risk of being called by a Simplus representative, it's still very much worth it. They have this tutorial. I'm not sure where it is right now, but I'm trying to find it. It was like a Cpq study guide, and they put together a really comprehensive list, and I wish I could find it, but I'm sure if you look around the Simplus website, you'll be able to see it. It breaks up all of the different Cpq areas in a way that was super intuitive. So it's almost like a dictionary of Salesforce Cpq vocabulary, and it's free, which is what's really cool about that. So I would look there. Before Salesforce took down the Cpq community, I would say to just go to the Salesforce Cpq community, which was called the Steelbrick community. But since that's been decommissioned, we kind of have to be a little more creative. There's also a lot of YouTube videos that used to be linked to that community, and you can still find the YouTube videos. So I think YouTube's a really good option. until there are a few more trailheads out there.
Mhm.
I would try YouTube and then that simplest document.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Ashley, for your time and talking through CPQ with us today.
Absolutely. And I see in some of the questions, Angela posted a link to the CPQ study guide. So thank you for that.
All right. And with that, I think it's a wrap for this time. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for joining us on Automation Hour, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.